Hi everyone, it's Ben from Trekitt and we're in the Iron Bothy today. It does look a little bit different because we're going to have a slightly different video for you today. You might see an awful lot of boxes and it's rather messy in here, but all will be explained as we move through this video. Essentially we're going to be doing a little bit of DIY. Now we've had this room for about a year. There's a few little cracks and crevices that have started to develop in the boards on the walls, so we'll be changing that a little bit. And we'll also be unboxing all of these guys, which contains our new podcast setup. So we'll be doing a little bit of DIY today and also running through setting up and playing with our podcast setup for you. So stay tuned and see what we got for you. So first things first, it's going to be a little bit of tidying. It's quite boring, but we need to tidy up the space a little bit here. So we've got a few books on the table. We've got our boards on the floor that I'm currently stood on. This is sort of a temporary setup for photographing some of our flat lays. So the nice pretty pictures you might receive in our emails that Harry takes for us will all be on these boards here. So we need to get those out of the way. We've also got a scaffold pipe that will be explained later on that we've got to move out of the way so we don't trip over it. So there's just going to be a little bit of tidying, books back on shelf, boards up on the wall, and the scaffold pipe's got to go somewhere as well. So we'll do that first. We will also be tidying up the shelving a little bit, don't worry about that. It's quite messy at the moment. This is kind of our catch-all, and I will be taking my shoes off the top shelf, which are stored there for reasons. So looking at the boards that we've got on the walls now, they've had a chance to dry out a little bit more since we put them up. And it looks like we've got some quite big gaps. So we've got to try and figure out how we can knock all the boards down. Because at the moment, especially up here towards the top, we've got some pretty big gaps in the walls. Yeah, if we start with this wall and we just basically just work our way down, there's such a big gap there. We needed a ladder for more tall. Me and Harry aren't quite tall enough, which doesn't come up often. And we want it flush on this side, don't we? Because we've got a little gap here, but we cut this one at an angle.
I wasn't listening.
So in order to get this screw out, because it was covered in glue, I've ended up stripping the head on it. So we're going to need another screw in there if we can get this one out. Oh no. Harry. There we go. Just about managed to get Harry's thoughtfully glued shelf back out. Just about. It's a beautiful piece of craftsmanship.
Is it level?
Yeah, looks about right. We can get it in. Hey. Oh, like a glove. Okay, so now that we've got all the boards roughly where we want them, we can start putting the room back together a little bit. So first step is to put the iron sign back up, and then we can do some other fun things. So one particularly fun thing about the iron sign is it was made from some sort of old road sign. So now that the room's back together, we can talk a little bit more about what we're going to do with that scaffolding pipe that I mentioned earlier. So that scaffolding pipe is going to be cut to size, which we'll have to go and get a tool for in a minute. But essentially it's going to be running along the ceiling of the room that we're in now so that we can use this nifty little clamp and our smaller secondary camera so that we can do some fun overhead shots over the top of the table. It will just allow a little bit of a different view when we're talking about products, potentially when we end up podcasting in here, things like that. It will give us a different view, so a little bit more footage and show you a slightly different angle. So with this handy little clamp and the pole that's going to run across the top of the room, we can then do a nice little overhead shot. New car.
Park next to a Volvo. Park next to a Volvo.
I need one of these, I don't know what for, but I want to cut something with it. After much deliberation off camera, we've decided that this is the appropriate extension lead. You're seeing all of the highlights right now. Cool, so we're just measuring to double check our distance here now, and we're looking like we need to cut the pipe to just over 330.
2 hours later.
Okay, so we managed to get the pole in place. We didn't film it because Harry needed to give me a hand, so it was a little bit more difficult to do that and film. But we have the pole in place up above us now after it's been cut to length, and now we can start rigging up a few other things in the room to make it look a little bit more like a podcast studio as well. Cool, so we've got all 4 chairs made. That is task done. They all function. Now I'm just going to sit a little lower. So we're going to give a quick tidy up now because there's quite a bit of mess. Harry was throwing packaging around with reckless abandon. You absolute savage. So now, after we've tidied up all that packaging, we then get to open the big box of all the fun stuff with all the podcasting equipment in. This is more of a unit than I remember it being. So I have no idea what this box contains, apart from podcast equipment. So we'll go on this journey together. So we've got quite a lot of cables, a 4 channel headphone amplifier, plug our headphones into, I would guess. Talking of headphones, we have some Sub-Zero monitoring headphones. I think we're going to have 4 of those. There should be 4 of everything here. 3, number 4. We've got a Sub-Zero dynamic podcast mic, which I did not almost just drop. No one saw that happen. Another one, and another one. I guess I already have made it on YouTube because I'm doing an unboxing video. Some really funky stands. Could be 4 of those. 3 and 4. And one last thing in the box. This I'm the most excited about because there's lots of dials on it. We've got what looks to be our channel mixer. So a little bit of a recap about what we've done today. We've lowered all the boards in here.
Sounds like a really angry cat.
So the boards should be less gappy. We've still got a few gaps in places, but you know, it looks a little bit rustic. We've put our overhead rig up so that we can do some overhead shots when we're doing inside look videos, and it just adds a nice other camera angle that we can use. And then we've had a bit of a play with our podcast setup. This isn't in its final form by any means. We need to play around with some of the levels and cable manage because the cable management is a bit of a mess at the moment, but that's just so that we can have a play with it and see what was going on. Make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel so that you can check out when we upload our first podcast. It might be a little while before we do that, but we'd appreciate if you could like this video and subscribe to our YouTube to keep up to date with everything Trekitt. Great, we'll see you in the next one. Take care.